Thanks for stopping by my channel. I'm Roger. This video presentation will be on software, looking at the different types of software and how they fit into the scheme of things as we compute. Let's jump right into the video. Software, you may be wondering what that is. So software is the same thing that is popularly referred to nowadays as apps. So apps is just another name for software, and vice versa. These are the set of instructions which direct the operations of a computer or other device. And of course, no device is functional without there being software installed on it, especially the operating system, which we'll look at in a little while. So yes, software is just another word for app or apps. And app here is really the shortening of application. Also, where devices are concerned, there are two significant components that makes up a device. One is software and the other one is hardware. Software would be those instructions, the apps which enable us to accomplish a particular task, or for a device to be able to manage the device in one way or the other. And the hardware would be those physical components. There are two types of software which we're going to be looking at in a little bit more detail, and these are application software and system software. Where application software is concerned, these so I hope you're seeing where this is going already. I mentioned two elements also. I mentioned hardware and software, but in addition to that, I mentioned end user and I mentioned device. In the scheme of things, there is a specific type of software which is exclusively for the end user, and the end user would be that person at the end of the IT chain. So that person would be you, that person would be myself, and anybody else who is using a device. So there are software that are designed for us to carry out our specific task. For instance, here I am doing a presentation. I'm using a presentation software. That would be an example of an application software. And then there are also those software that are designed exclusively for the device, for maintenance and management of the device. So yes, the application software are really specific to the end user. Let's begin by looking at the types of application software. And the first one we have here is general purpose software. Now this is a multi-purpose software, which means that it can be used for just about any task. So it is not designed for a specific task, and so it is non-specific. And they are also referred to as off-the-shelf software, which means that one can walk into a computer store, for instance. Yes, and I know that nobody really nowadays, you walk into a computer store to buy software. We know that we download them off the net. But this is really coming from back in the days, when computer stores, were more so prevalent, and you'd have been able to just walk into a store, grab it, and of course you pay for it, take it home, install it on your device, and you'd be able to just use it on the get-go, just like that. It would need no specific adjustment or tailoring to one specific need. Alright, so that's general purpose software. Where general purpose software is concerned, one may consider, for instance, a word processing application like Microsoft Word to be an example. Notice that with Word, I see people doing various things with Microsoft Word. They use it not only to type things like assignments or letters, but they also use it to do greeting cards. They use it to create websites and a whole host of other things. Alright. Now, in terms of pros and cons, pros, they're easy to use. They don't really require much training. Some may be relative. You may find some of them to be quite cheap, and especially where we are now in the scheme of things with broadband, they can be easily updated. Now, in terms of limitations, they may not necessarily be all that user friendly, and the fact that it is off the shelf, that may an indication too that it may not necessarily fit the specific needs of an end user exactly. Then we have special purpose software, and this now is a type of software that is designed to carry out a specific purpose or to fulfill some specific need. And these now would be, as I mentioned here, I'm using a presentation software. This is Microsoft PowerPoint. So this will be an example of a special purpose software. Then you have other things like music apps, such as VLC or QuickTime Player, or you have iMovie, or apps like those. Where browsers, you have Chrome, Mozilla Firefox. Graphic software would be like Adobe Photoshop or Illustrator, CorelDRAW. Alright, so those are examples of special purpose software. So they carry out a specific task or job. In terms of advantages, yes, so they're designed for a specific purpose or task, which means that one should be able to get the job done better, given the fact that this is designed for that specific task. There may be limitations, so that's a disadvantage, and some of them can be pretty much expensive. When we look at especially those higher earned applications, like the Adobe Photoshop I'd mentioned, CorelDRAW, AutoCAD. These applications, they can be very much expensive to acquire. All right, then we have integrated packages, and these now are those applications, those software which have multiple applications installed, or bundled rather. So here now we're looking at the suites. So we're talking about things like LibreOffice, Microsoft Office, right? Those will be examples of integrated packages. So they have multiple applications, bundled, and the applications typically are compatible, which means that you can import and export from the applications within the package. All right. Now, in terms of pros and cons, the plus on the plus side, yes, the fact that there are multiple apps, and the apps typically are geared towards productivity. So you will have your word processing application, for instance. You will have a presentation application, probably a graphics application installed there. A part of it also a spreadsheet, and these are really common tasks. These have present themselves with functionalities that the average person would be needing to do. All right, so they in a sense increase productivity. And in terms of the cons, disadvantages, it can be costly. So when we look, for instance, at Microsoft Office, what is it? I think the last one would have been the 2021 version. They can be quite expensive. Since then, what Microsoft has done is to actually make the application available online. So the online version now is Office 365. So we no longer have, we no longer only have the bundled app available to purchase. So if you just want, for instance, Word to use, you can subscribe for that service online. Then we have custom written software, and these now, as the name suggests, these are software that are custom written, which means that it is tailored to meet the specific need or needs of a particular user. So this is custom built. It is like, for instance, you going to your tailor and saying, hey tailor, or hey dressmaker, I want you to make me a pants or a shirt or whatever it is. Right? So on the plus side, these are designed to meet the specific needs of the end user. Of course, it will increase the productivity, and they are typically scalable, which means that they can be added upon. You can upgrade them. On the disadvantage side, no, yes, they tend to be costly, because this is something which is tailored specifically to you, the end user, so it would cost more money. It can be quite time consuming to acquire and to implement, because that would take some time to put together, given the fact that the process will be longer. The software engineer would have to do some needs assessment to understand your specific need, and in addition to that, understand the needs of your organization, yes, part of the process too, in an effort to ensure that you get exactly what is needed for your situation. And of course, it has to go through the testing process, all of that, beta, alpha and beta processes, and before it will be fully ready for you to use. All right, and it does require special training also. Then we have specialized software, and these now are those software that are customer in software. I just realized I didn't mention, give an example. If you look at the banks, for instance, these entities, they would be using, they would have their own customer in software, so they would have some software developer. Typically they have their internal persons who would design the platform that they use in-house. All right, so back to specialized software. Yeah, so these are designed for a specific discipline. So you look at, for instance, persons working in accounting, they would have their specific software. So you have like QuickBooks, for instance, Peachtree. You have persons who are engineers who would use an application like AutoCAD, and those persons who work, let us say you are a traffic controller working at an airport, again, you would have your specific software that you would use. Those persons who are in meteorology, they would have their specific software. And these applications, they can't jump industry, so they are designed only for those categories of persons in a particular industry. All right, and that is a plus. And of course, you'll find that they'll be very expensive and quite technical. All right, so now we move on to look at system software, and these now are those software which manages the resources of a computer or a device. And there are two types. We have operating systems and utility software. The operating system now is that crucial piece of application, right? Well, I'm not using the word application. Software, that crucial piece of software on the device. And what it does primarily is to control and manage the operations of the device. Let me say that let me go back to the first slide. Yeah, so where the operating system is concerned, it is operating at this level. So here you have your hardware, you have the system software, and the operating system, of course, is a type of system software. So in the scheme of things, when you have a new device is produced, let's just say a laptop, the first thing that has to go on it in terms of it being installed on it is an operating system before any of the other apps can be installed. All right, now let's just come back to this current slide. Yes, so it does that. It is a suite of programs, which means that you have multiple software which are bundled in the operating system. And as you can see here too, this is somewhat similar to the that image on the first slide that I showed you. So here you have the user, you have the application software. So the user now would be the one who would be interacting directly with the application software. The application software would come between the user, that is the end user, and the operating system. And of course, the operating system would be the level of the hardware. there are different types of operating system, and one must be able to appreciate this, that for each type of device that exists out there, it has to have its own application, well, not application, but operating system. So for PCs, there are the Windows operating system, and they are referred to as a family because they typically have quite a number of series. So this would have started back in 95 thereabout. So we'd have had Windows 95, 98, coming all the way up to where we are now, which is Windows 11, and that is on the desktop side. There are other devices that Microsoft supports. So there are servers, for instance, and so servers will have their own operating systems. We also have Linux, which is an open source operating system, which means that there's no intellectual property that is really tied to this, which means that various developers can actually create their own version from the source code. And there are a whole host of them. As a matter of fact, there are literally hundreds of different distributions of the Linux operating system. There's also an operating system for the Apple Mac systems. Also, Android and iPhones have their own operating system. Alright, well, I would have discussed this already. Now, in terms of the functions of an operating system, there are quite a few. So, it manages the processor, assists with multitasking. Typically, when you switch on a device, there are a lot of processes that are, will be running in the background. So here, you're seeing me using this application here, this presentation software. But in the background, there are a whole host of other things doing, right? I have various security applications, software running on this laptop here, and they're running in the background. And so the operating system has to be managing, monitoring that, allocating the amount of memory that each of these software is to have. Even this presentation software here that I'm using here, the operating system also determines the amount of memory that this needs to operate, and it would have allocated that amount of memory to this presentation software for it to function as it ought to function. File management, so keeps a track of the files that are stored on a storage device, and also providing a user interface. And by user interface, that now is referring to the how we interact with the device. I'm using a Windows based operating system here, and this has icons, and there are also menus that is a part of the user interface. So the operating system facilitates the user with that way of interacting with the device, and of course it provides security. And there are certainly a lot more functions that an operating system carries out. Then we are now at the other type of system software, which is utility software, and these now are software that are used in the maintenance of a computer or device, and they are the ones now that are used to carry out your maintenance task to ensure that the device is running smoothly. So they're used to monitor system performance, and there are in fact those applications that you can use to monitor the performance, to see for instance the use of memory, the processor usage. All right. We also have things like antivirus and anti-malware software, firewalls, that is software firewalls. There are network utilities, so you may use these, for instance, also to view network performance, especially if you are like somebody like a network administrator. That is a key application, key software that you would use to monitor and to manage traffic on the network. There are also backup software, so if you need to back up the software, whatever it is that you have on your system, there are those software that will do that. Compression software too, you know, your WinZip, WinRAR, and so forth, PZip. All right, so these are all examples of utility software, and as I mentioned, these are really there to you know, assist in the maintenance of the device, ensuring that it runs smoothly. All right, now finally, there are some terms here that I want to share. First of all, we have open source software, and these are software that one has access to the source code and can modify, and I'd mentioned the Linux operating system, so that is open source. There is also Open Office, which is an open source software, right? So these if the software is open source, it simply means that where IP is concerned, intellectual property, there is no infringement that will be made if you were to modify the source code. There are also freeware, and these now are those software that are free, so you don't have to pay for them to acquire them, but they are protected by intellectual property, which means that you can modify the software. And then now we have shareware, and these come, you know, they're different names referring to the same thing. So these are our trial versions or demo versions. Demo here means demonstration version, and the purpose really of these, you know, is to invite you to use the application, and if you are, you know, whatever software it is, and if you like it, you know, then they're expecting that you would go then and purchase the full version. So with the shareware or trial version, there's typically a limited period of use, typically 30 days, which means that after that time has expired, you will find that they either aren't, you know, they may become non-functional, which means that you can't use them anymore, or you may find that it may have limited use. All right, and then now we have software as a service, that is SaaS, and this is where we are now in the scheme of things. So this is really software on demand, and these are software that we access over the internet. So these are cloud-based, and this is opposite now to how we would have been using software over the years. In previous years, you know, where if you want software, you would typically go into a store to purchase it. Then we went to the next stage where they were accessible only online, so you would download them from the web, install them locally on the device, to where we are now, which is you can actually be using them in real time online. And these would be, for instance, typically your Google applications, like your Google Classroom, that is software as a service. There's also Office 365, which is also SaaS. You subscribe for the service, you access it online, so you're actually using it in a virtual space online. All right, Adobe also, for the Adobe, a number of the Adobe applications, they are also SaaS based. All right, SaaS based. All right, so that's it, looking at the different types of software. Please remember to like, share, and to subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet done so, and see you again in the next video. Take care.